She looked good out there, paddling.
You can ask.
They'll do the, like, they'll get you.
You're right, yeah, you can ask.
The rabbit show yesterday.
It went okay. Yeah, it went around really well.
Yep.
Fluff all over, you know. I kept spitting hair. It's like, how, I mean, Matt, how do you get hair? It's like, I got rabbit hair somehow.
Supposed to show you you're still getting.
See? You're not full food people. At least if I had a mask, I could spit it away.
Or you drain it in the microwave.
Exactly. Because this doesn't, no, it just moves. It just moves from one side to the other.
I'm just glad it's not 90 degrees. There's nothing this afternoon.
No.
Alexis?
Listen, Aubrey.
Yep.
I just do the university. Yep. Yep. The Twin Cities, Rochester campuses are something that the room, Moorhead,
They're gonna run their own
Oh, really? Awesome. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. Yeah. So you wore it yesterday, didn't you?
I liked it yesterday, but even like it better today.
It's a new one. And she was like, what are you wearing? And I said, sure, sure, like, by the time she wears it next year, she probably won't fit. So I asked her to get it.
Where is so
Andrew, come on.
In the ring now we have our January gilts, Alexis Olson and Carter Anderson. We also are combining that with Class 3 registered February gilts, Andrew Wallen and Aubrey Drescher. Class 4 commercial January gilts. You should start kind of thinking about coming up to the show ring. We only have 3 entries in that class. Class 5 commercial February gilts. I would start kind of thinking about coming up too.
It's going to take me, I'm from the land of Iowa where we're not required to mask at this point, and so it's going to take me just a little bit. It's the first show I've judged this year where I'm having the mask up. And so it's going to take me just a minute to get used to that, so I apologize for that. I think that too, you get these 4 in here, you're doing a little bit of apples to apples comparison, and yet you're doing a little bit of an apples and oranges comparison, because you got different breeds, and then you got different ages, and so a lot to kind of sort through and a lot to kind of do, and then you got to, as a judge, you got to project it and say, okay, what are these things going to look like, or how do they kind of build and balance it, what do they look back down the road, because of February versus January, there's a month age difference, and you kind of got to put all that, in my mind, you got to put all those things in mind and kind of try and get them together on an age-wise, and what would they look like when you kind of put them together on an age-wise. And I think when you do that, then there's one of them that probably just designs well and puts all the things together that from a breeding gilt standpoint does that. And I like the Duroc gilt to probably win the class. I guess to me that's the one that from an angles and a length and extension and balance standpoint does it really well. That coupled with the fact that she's opened up in her chest, and when you study her right behind her blades, she opens up with as much true spread there, and it's got as much true rib shape as any in the class, and so her length aside, her extension, her balance, her look, her length through the front third of her body, going from her, the point of her shoulder out through her nose, and just the way she's made her feminine build from that perspective, I think gets it there. I think it's really close with the young man's Yorkshire deal here, the January Yorkshire deal that's closest to me, and that's the one that, you know, you like the center body mass just a little bit, and that's when you try to compare the two, kind of how does age impact that, and how does that, you know, how does that maturity kind of come together? This one's maybe a little shorter up into her front end, maybe not as extended in her pattern all the way throughout, but I love this one's center body squareness or openness in her body cavity. She's got a big top, and certainly one that's open in the center of her body cavity, and one that you get behind her is certainly very powerful from behind, and it's got quite a bit of dimension when you get out in that portion of her body. Yet got a good underline, a good vulva, and get her out in motion certainly good enough from that perspective, and so I think a very comfortable place to come in second. I like the young man's Yorkshire Gilt Hill to me right to come next, and I think one that, again, when you talk about shoulder and hip matching, that one does it really well. She's tall-shouldered, she's taller than her hip, and she levels out very well from the side. That one's probably just a little bit more vertical in her build, and by that I mean, if you study the way her rib is shaped, it's a little flatter from top to bottom than what we have in those first two gilts as far as having some concave shape to their rib. That one's probably just a little bit flatter in the way she's constructed, but one that when you get on top of her, it's got some muscularity, one that's got some dimension when you get right in behind her. Then we end with the young lady's gilt, certainly one that's very good in her own right, and one that just runs into, again, a very difficult class, one that's level and from the side, one that is functionally pretty well built, I guess. I guess relative to the other three, maybe not the extras that we got in the other three, not the extra muscle, not the extra dimension, and not the extra squareness that we got in some of the other three, and so that's what kind of gets her hooked up here today towards the bottom of the class. But one, you know, a nice breeding female for the young lady that's going to go home and do a great job for us. So let's give our young exhibitors here a nice round of applause for their work here.
Alrighty, so in our first class of January gilts, first went to Carter Anderson and second to Alexis Olson. And then the second class of February gilts, Aubrey Drescher was first and Andrew Long was second. And then the overall champion was Aubrey Drescher and reserve was Carter Anderson. Up now we will have the show class 4 commercial January gilts. We have 3 exhibitors, Brooklyn Drescher, Peyton Saylor, and Elise Wallen.
Class 5, commercial February gilts are going in
Really an excellent set of gilts here when we talk about these young crossbred gilts, or these January crossbred gilts. And what's interesting is you got three very high quality gilts and you got three very different gilts in the way that they're built and constructed. All three of them have things that you really like, and all three of them have things that maybe, well, all three of them have maybe one or two places you change on them, but the one that I'm choosing to start with is the young lady's solid black gilt that's closest to me. That's the stout featured rugged one of the group that's deep in her rib and squared up over her top, and one that's got a lot of body and dimension, and yet one that's very attractive. When you study her up into the full region of her body, she's extended from the point of her shoulder forward, and yet balances really nicely when you get off the side of her. She's one that I think just kind of puts the best together from a design and build, and yet from a squareness and openness of body cavity standpoint, I think really well. Young lady's gilt that's closest to me comes next. That's the truly long-sided one of the group. I mean, from shoulder to flank, that's the most extended one of the group. She's got the most length when you just study her in that central portion of her body. Her hip length doesn't match her body length quite as well as what I'd like. And then one, when you start studying her at the ground and her relative to her body mass, she's maybe not quite as true down at the ground as we'd like her to be relative to what she's got on the top side of her skeleton. And so you'd make the upper match the lower just a little bit if you're going to get picky on that one and try and change on it just a little bit. Young lady's got a gilt here that we're going to use in third, and that's probably the hardest muscle, biggest back, biggest tendon one of the group. And if you're kind of wanting to do that and need to make that change in your operation or whatever, that's one that can do that pretty fast, because she is the biggest muscle without question, and has lots of dimension all the way throughout. But I also hope that you can see that she's also the one that's least comfortable in her stride from behind. She's not the most collected in the way that she uses her hip and hind legs. She wants to stab her legs a little bit more than just kind of get out and function and use them the way you need to. And so that's probably where you change her. You can just probably drop her center a little bit as well. She gets just a little bit more tubular in the way she's constructed in the central portion of her body. But I mean, as far as muscle and shape, that's where that one has a true advantage over the gilts in the class. So like I said, lots of things to talk about. Each one of them's got something that you kind of dig on, and something that maybe you change just a little bit, but really very, very, very nice skills. So let's give our young exhibitors here a nice round of applause.
Results from Class 4 Commercial January Gilts. In first place was Elise Wallen, second place was Peyton Saylor, and third was Brooklyn Drescher, all receiving a blue ribbon.
No, we're fine. No, we got the 1 or 2. We're coming back.
Coming in the ring now, we have Class 5 Commercial February Gilts. We have 7 exhibitors: Emmett Knudsen, Brian Hansen, Andrew Wallen, Cameron Eilertson, Carson Eilertson, Annika Hansen, and Elliot Christensen.
Okay, again, another excellent set of breeding females, and again, lots to discuss and lots of quality to kind of get through, and some give and take inside of the gilts. I think to me, the one that wins is Young Man's Belted Gilt here to my left, and I think if you study that one relative to the drive, that's the complete one of the drive. You ask that last her to come right at you. She's extra bold in through the way that she's made into her chest floor. You get on the top side of her skeleton, certainly one that opens up and it's got enough shape and muscularity. More importantly, though, you get off the side of her, she balances so well. Her length and extension up to the front third of her body, she's really extended, and she's cleaner up into that portion of her body. She's more extended when you study her right out into her bone, maybe just a little bit, and through that center portion of her body, the way she just kind of balances and puts those pieces together. Young Man's Blue Gilt here to my right comes second, and that's one that I think you could say very easily that she can make a case to win the class as well, because that one's really boxy in the center of her body as well. She's got lots of muscle when you get right in behind her. She's a gilt that's opened up in the rear two-thirds of her body, I think, extremely well, and a gilt that, I guess you study her out through her hip and rump. You like the way that she's made in that region of her body. She's not as extended and clean up in the fore region of her body, gets a little more crusty up at the top of her neck, and he's a little plainer into her jawline than we find in our eventual class winner. But I think one that builds so well, and it has so much dimension, so much muscularity, that she just needs to find her way in second, is that balances with her femininity and her just her natural build. Young lady's got a really flexible one that's extra sound and really complete in the way that she's built from the side. Again, if you're ringside, you can see that one probably gives up just a little bit of true natural power and mass relative to the top two, but so flexible, so good from a build standpoint, really deep in her heart, really deep in her flank, and one that just, you know, looks like a kind of a breed sow that can get out and go. She just doesn't have the extras from a muscularity standpoint that we had in those gilts on the front side of the class. And that's what kind of gets her in trouble here today. Young Man's got probably the truly hardest muscled one in the class that's right there against the gate, and that's the one that's going to come next. I mean, talk about just true shape and dimension, that one's got the most. Gets a little rounder, more tubular in her build, maybe just a little harsher in the way she's constructed. Maybe just offer that one a shot more body and dimension, and that's where you get her. She's cleaner, she's more extended, she's more feminine than the Young Man's Gilt that's going to come next. The Blue Gilt here to my immediate left is the one that, again, from a body mass and dimension you like, that one gives up quite a bit from a plainness perspective. She's a little shorter face, shorter neck. She gets a little plainer and just a little bit shorter coupled all the way throughout, and that gets her in just a little bit of trouble. Young Man's Belted Gilt closest to me comes next. A good built one from the side. From time to time, she wants to miss her stride from behind. She wants to be just a little shorter and choppier there. But that one's depth of heart, depth of flank is really good. Her squareness and levelness is really good. And she's one that just balances and does some things really well. Young lady's got a tremendously big muscled one that's got so much dimension, so much product. She's probably more of a market gilt. She's just not as comfortable and coordinated out of her hind leg and doesn't kind of use that quite as well as we'd like to. But she is one powerful female from a massive standpoint. And again, another really nice set of females. My congratulations to those visitors.
Yeah, the top case of two. We can't. Oh, shoot, I did. Oh, sorry, Crossbred can't. Crossbred can't. I'm sorry. No, you're right.
Really two excellent gilts here to select our crossbred champion, and I guess little thing separates the pair. I mean, the bigger gilt's the stouter featured one, right? She's got the bigger forelimb, the bigger hind limb. She's just a little stouter in her overall build, just from a mass standpoint. And you'd expect that, you'd expect her to be a little stouter in the future, while you try the younger gilt. The younger gilt's probably a little bit more flexible in the way that she's made out of both ends of her skeleton. She's a gilt that's probably a little more extended when you study her through the full region of her body. She's a little longer in her neck. She's a little more extended out to that portion of her body. And every bit is wide and bold when you get to the ground. And so to me, she's the one that probably balances and comes together in a more complete kind of package. I like the young man's February gilt to be our champion here on commercial division. We had in that second the blue gilt that comes out of that class. So I talked about that pair being a really good pair of gilts that fit together pretty well. I mean, having the same kind of body shape and dimension, and having a lot of just squareness and mass, and yet being pretty flexible in the way they're constructed. And so put her back in here, and then you compare the way that they're built, and that one probably more closely follows our eventual champion. I'm going to leave that pair of February's together, and they'll be our champion in reserve here in our Crossbred division. Congratulations.
Congratulations to the champion Crossbred gilt, Andrew Wallen, and reserve champion Ryan Hansen. We are now starting on the overall breeding gilt, so if we can get Andrew and Ryan back in, and then Aubrey Drescher and Hunter Anderson.
we get our purebred and our crossbred back in to name our champion gilt. And again, there's some similarities in those females, and they've got some femininity, some extension, and some balance, and some correctness of skeleton. And I think if you kind of study that pair, I think the advantage goes to the Duroc gilt when you talk about just openness of skeleton and squareness of muscle, both coming and going, and dimension all the way throughout. And so when you say they're both similar from a build and design standpoint, then the extra power comes in with the Duroc gilt. And so we're going to go ahead and use the purebred to be our champion here in our breeding gilt division. Congratulations, Larry. So we had in that second, in our purebred division, and one that we talked about, really got a good center body and a lot of dimension all the way throughout. Maybe a little choppy in her movement as we get her back out here relative to our crossbred gilt. And so I think, again, we talked about having similar skeletons that we find in our Duroc. Maybe it's not quite as powerful as the red one, but I think we talk about skeletal build and design and femininity and balance. I think the young man's crossbred gilt is the one that most logically follows our Duroc, and she'll be our reserve champion out here today. Congratulations.
Congratulations to our grand champion overall breeding gilt, Aubrey Drescher, and reserve champion Andrew Waller. We're now starting the first class of market gilts with Peyton Saylor, Darren Lynn, Cole Knudsen, Elise Malling, Austin Anderson, Boone Carlson, Nevan Nielsen, Sydney Rasmussen, and Gage Saylor, Claire Bottleson, and Sophie Bottleson. 11 total.
Certainly really an excellent set of market gilts, and I'm guessing that if you're ringside, you all have a fan favorite or one that you're here to see win, and And I understand that. As a dad, I get all that, and I understand the competitive nature of what it is that we do. I think every one of these gilts is something that, and I'll talk about, something, each one of them is something that I think extremely well, and then you got something that you maybe click on each one of them about just a little bit, and so it gets down to, as a judge, kind of what are your priorities, and what do what do you like, what do you dislike, how are you going to kind of put them together, which one brings the most in your mind to the table, and which one has the folks you could kind of deal the least with, and you can handle, I guess, the best. And I've always been a big fan of making sure that they're natural, and that when I'm saying natural, I mean, I understand there's not many things that come to the ring anymore that just came off a feeder. I mean, all of them have been messed up a little bit in some way, shape, or form to get them to look like they do. But natural, I mean, having some skeletal width and having some dimension, looking like they have some ability to perform and grow, and having some dysfunction from just a center body shape, and looking like they got an engine inside of them, and then you can use that engine to manufacture what you need to with your feed pail. But those that don't have enough engine inside of them, they get to be looking just a little artificial to me, and so that's just, as a judge, kind of how you put it together. So we get out here and you kind of study that and kind of keep that in mind. I'm looking for them that are kind of busted open and have some body and rib and have some dimension, and then have a nice look or have a good build when you get off the side. And when you do that, then the young lady's blue gilt's the one that across the ring, the dark blue gilt's the one that needs to start the class. And I think if you study that one, really one that's busted smooth open, and one that's square up over her back and big out of her rump, and neat when you get off the side of that one, and has a good kind of a build from that perspective. I said you could pick on all of them, right? You could pick on this one. What do you pick on her? You want to raise her up on her front passings ever so slightly. If you're going to pick on that one, that's where you change her just a little bit. But that's where my gilt in 2 probably is a little better. The young man in the red shirt comes second, and very, 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 very different, but very, very good in her own right. And that one built so cool from the side. That one runs smooth uphill. Is really cool when you get off the side of her and build from a balance standpoint. It just really got a neat look, and get her out in motion. That one handles her skeleton, I think, extremely well. I like her passing herself better than my eventual champion, but that one's not as stout, not as bold when you get right to the ground and study her coming right at you. She doesn't give us just that true mass and shape that we got right in our class winner, but so that one's got quality. I mean, tall, height to shoulder, flexibility, design. Get on her, she shapes extremely well. Got a big square rump inside of her. That's a really good kind of a gilt that just runs into a buzzsaw. We get into a pair of gilts here that are going to come next. I like the spotted gilt over here to come next, and then a really close place between her and this one. And there's something to take inside that pair as well. That's a good body, square back, and big-ended one. That runs just a little shorter sided, a little shorter faced, particularly maybe just a whisker shorter rump, but one that builds good from the side as far as her height to shoulder and her height to hip match. She's got lots of muscle, lots of dimension. She truly comes at you a little wider, not as long as extended as either of those 2 gilts that we started with, but one that builds very similar to the way that they are. Young man's got one that, again, you like the mass and dimension inside this one, busted open, really square, maybe sets up a little differently out of her hind leg and doesn't use her hind leg quite as well as we'd like to, particularly her rear leg, but one that, I mean, you just talk about it, smooth open and lots of dimension, lots of product, lots of muscularity. You like that about her? You maybe change her out of her neck just a little bit. Young lady's black gilt comes next, and that one in the rear third of her body is just a powerful engine. I mean, that one's got a big rump. There is a tremendous amount of ham sandwiches in the back side of that one. And but you get into the front side of her, and that one gets a little steeper out of her shoulder, and one that gets a little cleaner up into her neck, head, and front end. And so that's maybe where you change her relative that we have to use on the front side. That's what gets her hooked up. You got the different one of the drive, but again, quality. This one's got lots of quality, and that's why I retained her. That's a good design one. That's tall shouldered, long bodied, and level. That one's just really got a neat look and presence. Certainly very lean and it's got enough muscle. I think if you study her relative to the drive, just a little drier in her rib, just a little flatter in her design. Doesn't have that openness of center body cavity that we had. And, you know, kind of preface that when I started talking about just having enough just mass and dimension inside of her. That one probably doesn't have quite as much engine as we've had to use on the front side of the class. But really, really a high quality individual. Lots of good gilts. Let's give our young exhibitors here a nice round of applause.
Results from the first class of black gilts. In first place receiving the purple ribbon was Cindy Rasmussen. In second place with a purple ribbon was Boone Carlson. In third place with a purple ribbon was Nevaeh Nielsen. In fourth place with a purple ribbon was Cole Knudsen. In fifth place with a purple ribbon was Claire Bottleson. And sixth place with a purple ribbon was Elise Wallen. And our blue group was Peyton Saylor, Darren Lynn, Weston Anderson, Gage Saylor, and Sophie Bottleson. Coming into the ring now is Class 2 in Morgan Gilts. We have 9 entries: Brooke Seuss, Annika Hansen, Maya Anderson, Autumn Seuss, Levi Sorensen, Chloe Anderson, Libby Bell, and Max Fredrickson.
Sorry about that. I think, again, another outstanding class of gilts to get through, and I think it gets really tight here on the front side. I like the young lady across the ways gilt here in the center there that's going towards the post to win the class, and I think if you study that one again, We talked about one that's stout and square and open up and it's got lots of muscle and product and power, and one that builds good and one that's flexible enough out of both ends of her skeleton. I think where she beats the black gilt here that's closest to me, she's a little stouter in her foot. She's a little more secure, particularly on her left hind leg and the way that she comes and goes, and just uses that foot and leg just a little bit better. Both of them are massive gilts. They got just tremendous amount of muscularity, tremendous amount of dimension all the way throughout. And this one from time to time wants to not hit quite as well on this left one. And to the young lady's credit, she's hit it pretty well. When she drove it, she wanted to show me the other side quite a bit. And, but that one is this one. The black gilt is one that's, again, tremendously big top and big ended, and yet really got a neat look when you got off the side. They're a little more refined in their bone work. Doesn't have the stoutness that I found in my eventual class winner, but the one that follows so much from a mass and dimension standpoint, so much from the side build and design standpoint, that we just had to get it right up in here. Young man down there along the fence comes next, and that one's probably got the next most muscle as far as just bigness and top and bigness and hip and dimension. I think you can see that one's probably not as flexible as we find in those top two, and moreover just a little bit plainer when you study her up in through her head and from in, but a tremendously big top, big ended one. Young man that's going to spin come direction, it's going to come next, and again, one that's got some muscularity and dimension, maybe doesn't balance quite as well, but again, just a little plainer up through his front end. Young lady's belted gilt comes through here, it comes next, a deep-hearted, deep-flanked one. Again, get in behind this one, maybe doesn't have quite as much dimension. She's not as three-dimensional when you get on the top side. We get into the two blue gilts. There's a lot of similarities, between these two gilts as far as the way that they're built from the side and their dimension. I believe the young lady's gilt here to my left has probably got a little bit just more depth of heart and openness in the center of her body. Both of them, as you kind of study the pair, you maybe just redesign their hip and hind legs and the way that they use their skeleton just a little bit there from behind. We're going to go ahead and get them up a little higher in the class. But another outstanding set of gilts, lots of quality all the way throughout.
Alright, results in Class 2, the market gilts. First place with a purple ribbon was Chloe Anderson. Second place with this purple ribbon was Annika Hansen. And third place with a purple ribbon was Max Fredrickson. Fourth place with a blue ribbon was Levi Sorensen. Fifth place with a blue ribbon was Maya Anderson. Sixth place with a blue ribbon was Autumn Seuss. And seventh place with a blue ribbon, Brooke Seuss. Coming in the ring now is Class 3, the market gilts. We have 10 entries. Maya Anderson, Carter Anderson, Shay Saylor, Olivia Krause, Landon Purdy, another entry for Landon Purdy, Sophie Struck, Aspen Hendrickson, Aubrey Drescher, and Lauren Wakefield.
we get in our next class on market gilts, again, lots of quality inside of these gilts, and lots to talk about. Just a really nice class gilts. I like the style of that gilt across the way to win the class, and I think if you've been watching what I've been doing, that one just fits that pattern as far as being busted smooth open down low and having a muscularity we get on top. But more importantly, from a design and build, or as important from a design and build standpoint, really builds extremely well. My apologies, I think we may have one or two more for the class. My apologies for jumping ahead on you there, and so we had them last two in, and I'm still landing on the black one to win the class. And again, as you talk about it, that's the one that's busted open, got a good build, got great squareness on the top side of her skeleton, yet really gets a nice lift when you get off the side and balances and builds it. Okay, young lady in the black shirt across the way comes in two. I think if you study that one, again, one that when it comes at you opens up really well, really square down over her top, and got a big cover up. Maybe not as comfortable on her hind two as we find in our class winner, but one that you have to appreciate just for that one's mass and dimension. Her build from the side, her shoulder hip match really well. She's one that, again, it's got lots of product and power and dimension, and yet has a nice look when you get off the side of her. Just maybe not as comfortable there out of her hind two. Same for the next gilt when I find her here, young lady across the way, and I would call the fun-colored splotched up one. She's going into the corner there. Comes next, and one that again you build the front 2/3 I think extremely well, and maybe wants to get just a little tighter out of her hock and wants to maybe not just reach and use that hip and hock the way we'd like it to, but square and muscular. We've got a big top and a big ruff. We've got lots of product as well inside that one, and you got to appreciate those things. That one brings to the table. I think she's again just lots of dimension all the way throughout. Like the blue one to come next, and that one is just a big center. Just got a huge big inside of it. Got a big top. Maybe gets a little bit more crammed together as far as her length of side and length of rump is concerned. Wants to maybe miss her stride on her left rear ever so often, but one that's just tremendously powerful. Got a lot of ribbon body, got a lot of dimension inside of it. Young man's Barrow closest to me comes next, and one that, or gilt, I'm sorry, one that when you get on the top side of her, it's got some spread up high, it's got some dimension. Get her in motion, certainly good enough from that perspective. Wants to read just a whisker mature to me. Gets a little cleaner up into her head, wants to get just a little drier when you study it, right into the center of her rib, but one that, again, balances as far as height to shoulder and hip, and get her in motion. She's got a good look, and she's got some balance when you get right off the side of her. Young man that joined us late as well is going to come next, and one that front 2/3 you like really well, wanted to clean her hock just a little bit, wants to kind of roll out of her hock ever so slightly there from behind. Young lady here to my left comes next, and one that's, again, got lots of muscle and product. You maybe give her just a little different set of running gear if we're going to use her up a little higher in the class. We want to just redesign kind of that hip and hind leg in the way that she travels out of that. Going to use the Yorkshire influenced pig next, a big skeleton, one that's got, got big legs, and one that's got some muscularity when you get behind her, maybe just a little more rigid on her skeleton out of both ends, one that maybe runs just a little bit flatter in the way she constructed. Same for the young lady's gilt here, one that's just a little more rigid in her skeleton, but got a nice look when you get off the side of her. Then we end with a gilt that maybe just doesn't have quite as much muscle and power or mass as some of the others, but is good from just a side gilt standpoint. Let's give them all a nice round of applause as they work their three strides apart.
Results from the last class of market gilts. First place with a purple ribbon was Carter Anderson. Second place with a purple ribbon was Audrey Drusher. Third place with a purple ribbon was Shay Saylor. Fourth place with a blue ribbon was Maya Anderson. Fifth place with a blue ribbon was Landon Purdy. Sixth place with a blue ribbon was Landon's other entry. Seventh place with a blue ribbon was Sophie Struck. Eighth place with a blue ribbon was Lauren Wakefield. Ninth place with the blue ribbon was Olivia Cross, and 10th place with the blue ribbon was Aspen Hendrickson. In the ring now, we will be selecting a champion and insert champion market gilt. After this class, we'll be starting with the York barrows. We have 4 entries. And after the Yorks, we will go into the Duroc barrows. So if you're in one of those 2 classes, I'd start thinking about maybe coming up and getting lined up.
really just had an excellent market gilt division here this morning, and lots and lots of quality in each one of those classes. You know, you went 2 or 3 deep in purples, and then lots and lots of blues. And you get them back out here, there's 3 awfully good gilts back out here to be in contention for champion. And I think each one of them, again, is one that something that you like about each one of them, and each one of them kind of brings something to the table that you really can appreciate. There's one of them, I guess to me, is just a little bit more balance as far as having that natural spread and dimension, and yet being smooth in the way they're constructed from the side, and being flexible in the way that they come and go with their skeleton, and yet having that extra power and dimension, having the look, being good on their passions, good on their feet and legs, like the young man's black gilt that wins our last match, should be our champion here. Second, we talked about her having just lots of product and dimension, being a big top, big ended one that's a little long body and extended, maybe changing her ever so slightly there out of her hip and on her rump, but one that you know, you just really appreciate the extra mass and dimension she's got. I think the one that pushed her champion the hardest, one that builds very similar to her, maybe not as good in a couple places as far as maybe the way she uses her front end is just not quite as good as we find in our eventual champion, but I think level and square correct, and massive and dimensional in the way she's made muscularity, and yet smooth in the way that she ties all those pieces and parts together, and one that gives you the look of build and balance and design. I like the young lady's blue gilt that wins the first class to be our reserve champion.
Market gilt division champion went to Carter Anderson, and reserve champion went to Sydney Rasmussen. The next class in the ring will be the Yorkshire Barrows. We have 4 entries, and after that we'll have the Duroc Barrows with 7 entries.
we get into our Barrow division, we get into our first class here at Yorkshire. So I like the young ladies Barrow that's closest to me to win. I think, again, one that you talk about just dimension and muscularity and width and power. That's the one that does that, I think, extremely well. It's not perfect. You'd lay him back in his shoulder. If you're going to get picky on him, probably just give him a little more set right there in his blade and the way that he comes right at you. But that one's square and long and level, and got a big hip and got a big top, and I think does a lot of things from just a meat hog value standpoint really well. Next best one from that perspective is the young lady here in the black sweatshirt, and that one's going to come next. And the one that I guess as you study him, he too's got some shape when you get on the top side of him, and he's one that's got some rib and body and some dimension. Maybe not as powerful in the rear third of his skeleton as we find in our class winner, not as extended in his overall balance. Young lady next to me comes next, and again, one that side design is really well, and one that's level and square and correct, but just not the extra power inside of that one that we find in our top pair. And then we'll complete with the young lady here in the plaid shirt, and again, one that again, level and the way that it's constructed, maybe not as flexible out of its hind too, and maybe doesn't have the extras that we find on the front side of that class. But a good set of Yorkshire Barrows. My congratulations to those exhibitors.
Results in the Yorkshire Barrow class. First place with a purple ribbon and the champion York Barrow went to Chloe Anderson. Second place with the purple ribbon and the reserve champion York Barrow was to Alexis Olson. Third place with a blue ribbon was another entry from Alexis Olson. And fourth place with a blue ribbon went to Alexis Olson's last entry. We are now into the Duroc Barrows. We have 7 entries. Annika Hansen, Sarah Allison, Abby Beatty, Brooklyn Drescher, Nathan Orban, Sophie Bottleson, and Elise Wallen. The last class in the registered Barrow division is the AOB class. We have 4 entries, so if you are in that class, start making your way up to the ring.
I'm not exactly certain what's in the water in Freeborn County, Minnesota, but I'm going to tell you that I've judged most of the major big shows in the country, Houston, San Antonio, and all the things, you know what I'm saying? And I don't say that to say that because to do anything. This is the best set of 7 Durocs I've ever judged. Honestly, this is 7 outstanding Duroc barrels that have, there's not one that you can just throw away and say, well, I don't need to consider him, I don't need to consider him. You can't pick on them like that. These 7 are truly, really, really good Duroc barrels, and every one of them's got, you know, they're just really high quality Duroc barrels. And my compliments to the young people, my compliments to the parents, and the people that are helping them get these put together. Really, really just an outstanding set of barrels. I like the young lady here in the blue see-through kind of shirt to win the class, and I think if you study that one, again, building design and flexibility, and one that's got mass and dimension and squareness and muscularity, got one in motion, and he handles his skeleton, I think, extremely well. Ask him to come to you. He's opened up at the base of his chest. He's square up over his top. He's big out of his rump, and yet so flexible the way that he comes and goes. He's got big legs. There's a lot of good things, I think, in one little package. One of them really, he hit me hard coming out of the box, and I chased him for a little bit, and I just wanted to see this one, and then I asked some questions about it because he just looks greener and more immature. The young lady here to my left's got the bear that comes into, I think if you study that one's rear 2/3, that one is really good in the way that he builds and constructs. He's got a big hip and a big top and a big rump, and he's got a neat look when you get off the side of him. It's a little forward in his blade from time to time, and doesn't want to maybe use his shoulder and his front end quite as well as we'd like. But that one's rear 2/3 are extremely, extremely good, and I just really appreciate a lot about him. It'd be interesting to see that one as he matures and he comes into himself as he gets to be a big hog, kind of how that fits together into his skeleton. But just again, one that lots and lots of quality. I got pretty stirred up about him when he first hit the ring because I thought, ooh, that one builds extremely, extremely well. Young lady's got probably the biggest centered, biggest backed one, biggest ended one comes across the way here, and that one's coming next. Also probably the shortest neck complaint is made up into his front end, probably the least extension when you study him up out of his front end, so maybe comes just a little bit tighter, more jammed together up in through his front end, but when you get from that point back, that one builds extremely well. Big top, big ended. Really got a big engine working inside of it. Certainly one that balances shoulder and hip kind of come together really well. Young lady here in the brown, or I'm not sure what color you call that shirt here comes next. A little differently, a little shorter out of this one's rump, and maybe sets up a little differently on his hind leg, and is not as powerful when you get right into the rear third of that one. Front 2/3 of that one's cavity is really, really good. Opens up extremely well, got a big forelimb, just monster chested coming right at you. Gets a little quicker from behind, and maybe not as extended all the way throughout, but that one is stout. That one has got a big forelimb. That one's got a big engine working inside of him. Young lady in the other, I don't know, sure, here comes next, one that again designs extremely well. He's got a good build from the side. Maybe he doesn't have as much just mass and dimension inside of him, and that's kind of the trend here, that you don't maybe have quite as much just true power in these last 3 as we've had on the front side. That one sets his skeleton really well, gets out and moves, I think, extremely well. Same for the young man across the way, just a good skeleton one that gets out and moves well. He's got a good kind of a look, certainly way more than enough muscle that we need, but you get into a buzzsaw with all the power we had on the front side of that class, and maybe just doesn't have enough. Same for our young lady that completes our group, but again, that was a really, really, really nice set of Duroc barrels. My compliments to the young people and those people that are helping them.
Results from the Duroc Barrow class: in first place was Elise Wallen with the purple ribbon and the grand champion Duroc Barrow. In second place was Annika Hansen with the purple ribbon, the reserve champion Duroc Barrow. In third place was Abby Beatty with the purple ribbon. Fourth place was Sarah Allison with the purple ribbon. Fifth place was Brooklyn Drescher with the purple ribbon. Sixth place was Nathan Orban with the purple ribbon, and seventh place with the purple ribbon was Sophie Bottleson. Entering now, we have our AOB barrels. We have 4 exhibitors: Jaden Lynn, Elliot Christensen, Megan Lynn, and Daniel Wallen.
In our A or B division, again, you get into a little bit of an apples and oranges deal, and kind of trying to evaluate the breeds and kind of what each one of them's got and what each one of them brings to the table, and then kind of put them against each other and kind of weigh some things out. For me, the one to win is UMN's Berkshire Across the Way. That's a good design, good built one that's sound and flexible. It's got a good look from the side, and certainly enough chest width and dimension, enough muscularity inside of him. I'm not going to tell you he's the biggest muscled one, but I'm going to tell you he's the one that combines design and build and flexibility and look, along with enough muscle and power and dimension. I like the Chester Barrow to be second, and if we could redesign the way this one works out of his shoulder and front end and just lay him back ever so slightly in the way he's made up out of his blade, you can see that he wants to be a little more rigid in the way that he's built, a little more what they call upright in his shoulder, and that makes him a little bit more gated out of his front end. But if we could just lay that back at him, and that's the one that wins, because from their back, he's as big back and as big ended as any of them, and yet still builds extremely well from the side. We just need to offer him a shot more comfort level there out of his front end to go ahead and use it. There we go with the Spot Barrow next, and that one's certainly one that's robust in the center of his body. It's got a good outward shape to his rib, and certainly got a big, thick kind of a stifle. Maybe a little quicker made, a little lower set to the ground, runs a little quicker in his overall build, but that one's got some muscle and got some dimension. Young Lady's Berkshire comes next, and one that again, you like the center body of that one really well. It's got some muscularity. Again, a little plainer in his build, a little coarser in the way he's made up in through his front end, and wants to come apart just a little bit there at his hamline junction, and just doesn't build quite as good as some of those that we had on the front side of the class. But a good set of barrels. My congratulations to those young people.
I probably should have told
Results from the AOB Barrows in first place. And the champion AOB Barrow was Daniel Wallen, second place with purple ribbon 2. And the reserve champion AOB Barrow was Elliot Christensen. And third place with the blue ribbon was Jaden Lynn. And fourth place with the blue ribbon was Megan Lynn.
Get it back out here, and again, my congratulations to each of these young people for besting their categories. I kind of went off on one breed and thought that that breed was very, very good, and that we had just an outstanding set of them, and so to get in and not use that breed to go ahead and win would be kind of foolish on my part. I like that they're out there being our champion here in our purebred division. We had in the second from that division, and again, one that I talked about just having a lot of quality, and one that I really appreciate a lot of things about. It'll be interesting to see him as he matures out and what he does. I think one that's extra good. You know, if you compare him to let's compare him to the Yorkshire Barrow. He's a bit square, he's a bit bolder when you get right behind his blade. He's got just a little more natural shape and turn, and he lays out of his shoulder just a little better. Compare him to the Berkshire Barrow, he's more powerful in the way he's constructed out of his hip and up over the front side of his skeleton. He's bolder coming right at you, and so to me the logical thing to do, we're going to use the Duroc Barrow to be a reserve champion. Congratulations.
All right, in our overall purebred barrel drive, our champion was Elise Wallen, and coming from the same class, reserve champion was Annika Hansen. All right, now we're going to get started into the crossbred barrows. Our first class, we have 9 entries: Elizabeth Wasman, McKenna Reeder, Randy Lynn Strauff, Darren Lynn, Mason Reeder. Another entry for Mason Reeder, Alex Nielsen, Weston Corman, Nathan Orban. I'm just going to take a little bit of time to announce the top 10% for each age division in this slide. For our senior, we had 7. In no particular order: Annika Hansen, Brian Hansen, Kane Purdy, Levi Sorensen, Shay Saylor, Haven Carlson, and Megan Lynn. In our intermediate division, we had 5: Maddox Christensen, Brooklyn Drescher, Alex Nielsen, Jaden Lynn, and Darren Lynn. And then in our junior division, we had 5 as well. McKenna Reeder, Mason Reeder, Aubrey Drescher, Morgan Locke, and Jace Agnesweski. So congratulations to all those exhibitors.
Really great way to get our barrel show started and get out here. We've got really some nice quality barrels to start with. I like the young man here to my left, his barrel to win the drive, and I think if you study that one, that's the complete barrel of the drive. Being stout and wide and bold, yet really having a neat look when you get off him. Got a great presence. Put him in motion. That barrel's runs up hills, got a great shape. Got a great look from the side and balances, and yet he uses his feet and legs well, and just kind of puts those things together. Young ladies, blue belted barrel comes next, and one that builds very similar to our class winner. Maybe not as stoutness bone work as we find in our class winner. Maybe doesn't have quite as much when you get right into the seat of his pants as we have in our class winner, but one that just builds from the side. He's open in his chest and he's square when you get on the top side of his skeleton. And so I think just, again, one builds very similar to our class winner, so a logical place to fall in. Young man's probably got a stouter boned one that we find in our Barrow in second, and I like that about him. He wants to get a little inverted the way that he's made, and by that I mean when he goes to the ground, his feet want to get closer than what he is at the top side of his skeleton. He wants to kind of get just a little bit squishy footed, and then from time to time his left rear wants to kind of get outside of his hock, and so just want to maybe change his running gear ever so slightly. But that one's stout, got a big foot, got a big forearm, certainly one that shapes up very nicely. Young man in the black shirt there, or dark charcoal, or whatever color that is, I guess, with a belted barrel comes in next. And that's a tall-shouldered, long spine barrel that's really, the front 2/3 of him are really good. And again, you want to just change that one's hind leg just a little bit in the way that he handles that hip and hind leg, but one that balances very, very well, and one that's, again, tall-shouldered and got a kind of a neat kind of a look when you get on it. Young man's barrel that joined us a little late. If we could change the under third of that one's body just a little bit and kind of clean him up in the way that he's made. Maybe stretch that one in his rump just a little bit. I like the head neck carriage of him and his height of shoulder and his squareness when you get on the top side of his skeleton. He's got a great shape to his top, and he's got a big kind of a rump inside of him. I just need to change those things about him if we're going to go ahead and get him up higher. Young man here in the green striped shirt comes next. A level square one that simply needs to add just a little more punch to his package as far as muscularity is concerned. Same for the young man in the lavender colored shirt, one that we maybe just offer a little more just mass and dimension to. Young lady on the other end with what I would call the fun colored barrel is one that's good from a design standpoint. We just need to offer that one a shot more muscularity. Young lady here to my left, we just changed that one time to a little bit. we're gonna get him up, but, one that, you know, looks like at some point that something happened because his chest is wide and he's folded, and the way he comes at you, just wanna change those height too. So, good set of barrows, Mike, congratulations to those young people.
Results from the first class of the Crossbred Barrows. In first place with a purple ribbon was Alex Nielsen. Second place with a purple ribbon was Elizabeth Wasman. In third place with a purple ribbon was Weston Corman. And fourth place with a purple ribbon was Nathan Orban. Fifth place with a blue ribbon was Maren Lynn. Sixth place with a blue ribbon was Mason Reeder. Seventh place with a blue ribbon was Mason's second entry. Eighth with a blue ribbon was McKenna Reeder, and ninth with a blue ribbon was Randy Lynn Stroud. We're now going into our second class of Crossbred Barrows. We have 7 entries: Nevaeh Nielsen, Jace Ignacheski, Carter Anderson, Weston Corman, Lindsay Nielsen, Alex Nielsen, and Annika Hansen.
excellent class of cross barrows and lots of quality all the way throughout. And some give and take here in our top pair. And to me, the top pair is these two right here, closest to me. And I like the young man's barrow to win the class. And I think if you study that one and you watch the last class, you can see there's a lot of similarities to that one and the one that we used to win the last class. Again, balance and build and design and flexibility. And yet, when you ask him, come right at you, that's the boldest chested one of the drive. He's the best in his knee and the way that he's made from the top of his blade to the way he's made at the base of his blade, the way he sets his knee and the way his foot goes to the ground. He's the truest from the top side of his skeleton all the way to the surface of the ground. Get into his build from the side. He's as deep in his heart as he is in his flank. He's as square coming over the top side of his hip as he is at the top of his shoulder. And so he's just really square the way he's constructed, and yet it's got a neat look. His advantage over the barrow that I've gotten to in the young lady in the floral pattern shirt is just more extended and just a little more extended up in the foreregion of his body. He's a little bit more balanced when you get right off the side of it. There is no question that the barrow that's into is a stouter footed one. He's more rugged the way he's constructed, and I like that about him. He too has got just got a great shape when you get on the top side of his back, and he's got lots of muscularity when you get out over his rump, and I like that about him. He's not as genuine when you get right at the surface. Watch this one's knee come right at you. He gets a little closer, particularly on his right knee, wants to twist a little bit. He's a little shorter in his face. He's not as extended up into the foreregion of his body, but that one builds extremely good from the side. He is a square-backed one that's got lots of muscle, lots of product and power inside of it. That's why I say there's give and take inside that one. The one that I start with just builds a lot like the one that we had in the last class. Like the young lady to my left here to come next, but again, one that's got a lot of similarities to the barrow that's right above him, a little shorter face, a little shorter neck. I didn't see him quite as powerful when you get right behind his blade as we had the barrow that was in third. I didn't see him quite as powerful as the barrow in second is right when you get it is stifle as the barrow in second. Similar from a build and design standpoint, similar from a length and extension standpoint. You can see that he goes a little lower out of his shoulder, and he's not as extended when you study him up into the foreregion of his body. But his side design, his levelness, his squareness, his depth of heart, his depth of rib, his just fundamental build from the side is very, very similar. It's pretty hard to say that you're going to load the biggest legged one in the class that's got the biggest hind leg and whatever and say, oh, I'm going to end up fourth in class, right? But the young man across the way does that, and when you just study that one, that is the stoutest featured one of the drive. He's level, and he's pretty level in the way that he's constructed all the way throughout. You get into that one skeleton, he's bold in the way that he's made. He's not as robust in his center body, certainly not as elevated at the front of his shoulder. He doesn't have that extra balance and look that we found in the front side of them, and so that's what gets him kind of hooked up. The young man here comes next, the one that, again, when he's talking about just height to shoulder and height to hip, he balances very well. A little shorter in his rump, again, a little shorter in his face, but one that's stout structured. He's deep chested, he's bold struck. The lady's got one, I think he just fixed his hind legs. I could get really pumped up about this one because he's long neck, he's extended, he's big back. That one's got a huge top and a big, thick kind of rump. We just need to redesign how he uses his feet and legs to get him up the drive and make him more competitive. Then we end with the young man. He's got a great built one from the side that simply just doesn't have enough punch inside of him from a muscularity standpoint to work his way up the drive. But his fundamental build from the side is extremely good. I like that about him. Really a nice set of barrows. My congratulations to those young people.
Results from Class 2, the Crossbred Market Barrows. Every exhibitor in this class will be receiving a purple ribbon. First place was Alex Nielsen. Second place, Lindsay Nielsen. Third place, Nevaeh Nielsen. Fourth was Carter Anderson. Fifth, Weston Corman. Sixth, Annika Hansen. And seventh, Jace Ignacheski. Coming in the ring now, we have Class 3, the Crossbred Market Barrows. We have 8 exhibitors. Peyton Saylor, John Lukes, Briar Anderson, Brian Hansen, Max Fredrickson, Sarah Allison, Avon Rosman, and Carson Eilertson.
maybe a little more challenging group to put together. Not that there's not quality in here, but you gotta kind of as a judge, kind of put all the things together. The one that wins is the young lady in front of me right here. I think if you study that one and then compare that to what we've been using in the drives to win, is that's the one that kind of combines everything that we've been talking about. Got a good build from the side. He's robust when he comes at you. He's got shape when you get on the top side of his skeleton. He's big out of his rump. You put him in motion and the barrel balances. He builds really good from the side, and yet he's got enough just mass and dimension to work his way out. The man right next to the outgate is actually going to come next, and if we can set that one's left ear hop back inside of him, from time to time he wants to let that thing get outside of him. That one's really good from a squareness and mass standpoint. It's really good from a side build standpoint as far as height to shoulder and hip matching really well. I think he does a lot of things really well. He just wants to get outside of him from time to time. Young lady closest to me here in the brown shirt comes next, and there's one that's really got a great big engine, and he's got a great center. He's deep in his flank, deep in his body. He's got a great big heart. I want to make that one just have a little more natural, true shape along his loin edge. He gets a little bit more nondescript in the way he's muscled. He doesn't have that extra turn that we've been able to use in some of the other barrels here in the drive, but he's a barrel that you have to appreciate his correctness of skeleton, his depth of read of his heart, his openness of chest, and the way that he's made coming right at you. That one does a lot of really good things well as well. Young man clear on the other end comes next, and if we could redesign that one's hind legs, there's one that we could go ahead and use to win the class. If we could, because that one's long fronted, he's out extra wide coming right at you, he's big over his top, he's got a huge rump, but he wants to roll both of his hocks on the outside of his cavity, and that's what gets him in trouble. Same for you, young man. You've got one that wants to kind of get one hock just a little bit outside of itself, and he's struggling just a little bit with that. And that's a full-chested, big-topped one that's got lots and lots of muscle and product. We just need to redesign his running gear to get him inside of it. I need to bust this black one smooth open, just make him a nickel wider all the way throughout. That one builds really nicely from the side. He's got a big hip, but he wants to come at us just a little bit base narrow, and he doesn't have that natural shape. Same for the young man's black one here. We just don't have that natural turn and spread. We don't have that openness of body cavity to make him more competitive in the drive. Really, again, a nice set of barrels. Let's give him a nice round of applause.
Results from Class 3, the Crossbred marker barrels. First place with a purple ribbon was Peyton Saylor. Second place with a purple ribbon was Brian Anderson. Third place with a purple ribbon was Sarah Allison. Fourth place with a blue ribbon, or purple ribbon, excuse me, was Carson Eilertson. Fifth place with the blue ribbon was Ryan Henson. Sixth place with the blue ribbon was Max Fredrickson. Seventh place with the blue ribbon was Aiden Wasman. And eighth place with the blue ribbon was John Lewis. Entering the ring now is Class 4, the Crossbred Market Barrows. We have 7 exhibitors in the ring. Emmett Knudsen, Brian Hansen, Haven Carlson, another entry for Haven Carlson, Jay Saylor, Sydney Rasmussen, and Levi Anderson.
Again, just keep bringing lots of quality, and I appreciate that. Just a really excellent set of barrels to work through. I like the young man here in the purple colored shirt to win the class, and I think if you study that one, again, things we've talked about, being open in his chest, and big over his top, and big out of his rump. He's got a good engine in him, yet flexible in the way that he comes and goes. One that just builds, I think, extremely well. He's a little better up in through his head and front end, and it's a little bit more extended than the young man's Blue Barrow here to my left that will come second. I think that's a stout, powerful one that's got a big back and a huge rump and got lots and lots of muscle and product inside him. You can see these a little made up in through his neck and front end. These a little shorter face, just a little more jammed together up in that region of his body. But lady, if we could redesign the hip of your Barrow, I think he'd just stretch and reach out of his hind leg, then he wins the class. There is no question. Now, Blue Barrow there, the Blue Velvet Barrow, the young lady's driving across the center of the ring. The front 2/3 of that one are really, really good. Full chested, really extended up into the front end of his body. Yeah, got good shape through his rib, and he's muscular down his top. When he starts, his probably starts at his ham-loin junction. He gets tight in that region, jumps his muscle up there, and then he gets tight out of his hip, and he doesn't want to just reach and use it. He ends up kind of shuffling him more than reaching and using the ground. And so that's what we need to kind of just redesign that once. Hip and hind leg, that's the advantage the two that were ahead of him had, and that they can just use their skeleton oh so well and get out and move really well. Young man's got one that designs extremely well, simply runs out of, just runs out of rump. When you get him behind that one, his top's huge, but his rump just runs out of gas from behind. Young man gets a nice job of getting him driven, gets his head up. When he does that, from the side, he looks like he's actually got more gas in the tank than he really does. The lady's got a good one here that's got a big back and a big rump, gets a little plain again on rolls out of his shoulder and front end, and gets a little short-faced up into his front end. Same for the young man's Barrow. He's one that gets a little plainer up into his face and front end. I thought of those that we've talked about so far. That is the least strict one as far as muscle shape. He wants to pop his chine bone off the top of his shoulder and just get a little drier in his center build as far as his natural openness and shape. Get from the side, that one's shoulder to hip matches really well. We just need to be a notch more robust. Young lady's Barrow does that. He's a little bit bigger in his center. He's got a little more shape. He's not as good coming right at you. He wants to get close at his knee. He wants to be a little tighter when you get right in out of his hip and on his hind leg. Good set of Barrows. My congratulations to each of those young exhibitors.
Results from Class 4 of the Crossbred Market Barrows. Everyone in this class will be receiving a purple ribbon. In first place was Ryan Hansen. Second place, Emmett Knudsen. Third place, Sidney Rasmussen. Fourth place was Haven Carlson. Fifth place was Haven's second entry. Sixth place was Levi Sorensen. Seventh place was Shay Saylor. And eighth place was Izzy Attic. Coming in the ring now is Class 5 of the Crossbred Market Barrows. We have 7 entries in this class. Thomas Carlson, Kane Purdy, Andrew Wallen, Eamon Wasman, Elizabeth Wasman, Kennedy Matson, and Piper Bell.
They just keep bringing them. Really get another outstanding set of barrows, and one that I had to kind of sort through because we're getting into some heavier fight weights, you might say, and so you got to spend just a little bit more time kind of sorting apart the different pieces and parts. The winner to me is the young lady right here to my left, and I think when you study that barrow, that's the complete one of the drive, and you think about one that's built extra wide and yet really square and level and correct in the way that it's constructed. Study that one shoulder and his hip and the way that he comes to you and then leaves you. He's every bit as wide coming in as he is leaving. He's deep in his heart, he's deep in his flank, get him in motion, and he handles his feet and legs well. He's one of the two stouter structured barrows in the drive. He just puts all the pieces and parts together in the right kind of package. Young man's blue one to my left is one that pushed that one really, really hard, and I think one that, again, balances, I think, exceptionally well. Not as good at the base of his chest, not as stout in his bone work as we find in our particular class winner. Doesn't leave us quite as much just backside as we found, but I think builds extremely well. Shoulder and hip match really well. Good from a skeletal design standpoint, and good just from a general body build. We'll get into a pair of longer body ones that are come next. I like the young lady's barrow here, the black bulldog. To come next, that's a good skeleton barrow that's flexible in the way that he goes. Tremendous top shape in this one. Maybe he doesn't have quite as much rump when you get right behind him. Relative to the young man's barrow here to my left, he's better on his hind leg, and he's more correct in the way that he's made, just skeletally in the way that he comes and goes that way. This one's probably got a whisker more top shape in it than the young lady's barrow does. He's got just more turn, and the young man, to his credit, does a great job of getting this one's structure kind of showed out of it. If he turned that one loose and tried to push on him and make him drive, he'd be in a world of hurt because that hind leg couldn't handle the speed that would come with that one. And so, just from a skeletal build standpoint, the way he drives him gets him as high as he got him because of how he does that. So that gets him where he's at. Next one is the young man's here to my right. Big backed one, a big ended one that needs to be just a little bit more flexible. Young man's pig comes next. We want to kind of clean the lower third of that one's body cavity and make him just a little more flexible from behind. And then when we end with the young lady's blue hog that just simply needs a shot of mass to work his way up the drive. Again, a really good set of barrows, really high quality all the way throughout. Thanks.
From Class 5 for Crossbred market barrows. In first place with a purple ribbon was Kennedy Matson. In second place with a purple ribbon was Avon Wasman. In third place with a purple ribbon was Elizabeth Wasman. In fifth place with a blue ribbon was Hollis Carlson. In sixth place with a blue ribbon was Andrew Wallen. And in seventh place with a blue ribbon was Piper Bell. We're now starting on Class 17 of the Crossbred market barrows, show Class 6. We have 9 in this class. David Nyberg, Gage Saylor, Audrey Fletcher, Lindsay Nielsen, Cole Knudsen, Cameron Eilertson, Weston Anderson, Kane Purdy, and Emmett Knudsen.
Again, just another outstanding set of barrows. My class winner is the young man across the way from me. I think one that just, again, builds extremely well, the one that's stout and powerful the way he's constructed, one that to get off the side of him, he's one that balances, and ask that one to come to you, and he's busted smooth open, got a great shape when you get on the back side of him, and got a big rump when you get behind him. You have balances when you get off the side, his shoulder and hip match. He's extended into the forereach of his body. He's a nice look when you get off the side of him. The young lady here comes too, maybe a little shorter faced, a little shorter sided, or shorter into his neck and the front end. He doesn't have the extension out to the front portion of his body as we found in the barrel that we drive the class off with. But that's a boxy back, big top, big ended one that's got shape and mass and muscularity. That's a really good strong pair right there on the front side of the class. They really kind of give and take inside of that pair. Then we got a little bit of a change in kind of how we design them, but they're both built very well. I like the young man's blue barrel coming next time. I think that one is built really good out through his hip and on his hind leg. Really flexible in the way that he comes and goes. He's got a big chest. Want to change? I give him a great big drink of water and then want to change it right at the top of his neck. He wants to get just a little cresty up there, and that's where we really get picking on him just a little bit, so he doesn't balance quite as well as we find, particularly in our class. But a young lady in the black shirt here comes next, and that's a good design one that simply needs to be cracked open just a little bit. We do, of those that we've talked about coming right at us, that one's probably just the least robust. I mean, the way that she's shaped he's shaped in the way that his rib comes to us and goes away from us, and just a little flatter in the way it's constructed. The young man in the purple shirt on the other end comes next, and that one again is one that we like from a side build standpoint. Want to bust that one open as well. I'm sorry, wrong young man. I apologize for that. The young man third, I call it purple, and maybe it's blue. I'm a little bit off there. I apologize. My color, black mask on. He's got a black mask on. That's the one. I apologize. My mistake. So, just want to bust that one open ever so slightly, but that one's got a good side build, and we like that about it. Now we can come with the other purple shirt, a good built one that's got a great design and a great look, but simply doesn't have the muscularity inside of it. want to change the hind leg just a little bit on the barrel that comes next. He wants to get a little just not coordinated and wants to come up in his spine just a little bit. The young lady in the plaid shirt that goes away from us comes next, and we just flex that one a little differently in the way that he's constructed, and then we use him up. The man in the red shirt comes next, and that is a stout one. I mean, he has got a huge forelimb and a huge blade, and I like that about him. He reads a little coarse and mature in the way he's made. It's a little coarser about his head, and we just freshen him up a little bit in his look. Same for the blue barrel. That's going to complete our class, one that we just freshen in his look a little bit in the way that he's made. Just make him just a little more youthful in the way that he appears to us today. Really, again, another excellent set of barrels. Let's give those young kids a nice round of applause.
Results from Class 6 of the Crossbred market barrels. First place with a purple ribbon was Cole Knudsen. Second place with a purple ribbon was Lindsay Nielsen. Third place with a purple ribbon was Kane Purdy. Fourth place with a purple ribbon was Aubrey Drescher. Fifth place with a purple ribbon was Kaden Nyberg. Sixth place with a blue ribbon was Weston Anderson. Seventh place with a blue ribbon was Cameron Eilertson. Eighth place with a blue ribbon was Gage Saylor. And ninth place with a blue ribbon was Emmett Knudsen. Coming in the ring now is Class 7 of the Crossbred market barrels. We have 11 entries in this class. Austin Neubauer, Morgan Locke, Boone Carlson, Kennedy Matheson, Sophie Struck, Daniel Wallen, Kaden Newbar, Sarah Allison, Claire Bottleson, Megan Lynn, and Jay Signacheski.
Another again, good class, and lots of quality inside of it, lots of pieces and parts in this one. Maybe not the one or two to just land on right away and get hooked up, and that's what took me a little bit longer to kind of sort through them and kind of get to where I feel comfortable. I got one to kind of land on and get going with. And we're going to do that with the young man's barrel in the center of the ring we're talking about coming across. I think just build and design gets him there. He's one that's certainly shaped well when you get on top of him and big when you get out to his rump. If you're going to change him, you'd stop him in his bone work ever so slightly to make it just a little bit, make the bone kind of match the muscle. But I think build, design, flexibility, his squareness, his muscularity, you just got to do that. We can elevate this young man's barrel on the front end and make him balance just a little bit better, clean his head. That's one that we can maybe just go ahead and hook up to because he is a stouter featured one. He's a barrel that's got muscle and shape and he's got some body. I'd shorten him up a little bit and more importantly just elevate his front end to make him just kind of balance and come together like we find in our classroom. The other lady's got a barrel that if we could stouten his structure a little bit to make it match the muscularity he's got. That's a big top, big ended one, but he's a little more refined in his bone work and he doesn't have the mass. I clean him on the stoutest structure. I clean him on the lower third of his body cavity just a little bit. He's got to slowly blend back in there and we change that about him, but certainly one that's muscular in his top, certainly one that's level in the way that he's constructed, certainly one that builds from a balance standpoint very well inside. Young man, I thought you had the one to hook into when we got started, and then the longer we go, the more he becomes just a little bit flatter and narrower. He doesn't open up with as much cavity inside of his body as we find. Young lady's got a good barrel here that we can just redesign his hind leg just a little bit, then we can get pretty fired up about, but because he's bold-chested and he's big, got a big center and engine in him working, and we just need him to be a little better on his feet legs. Same for your barrel, young lady. He's got a big chest and a big top and a big rump. He doesn't handle his hind legs quite as well. Same for yours. The blue barrel that comes next is one that we just need to change his skip and hind leg and the way that one comes and goes in us and make it just a little better. The white barrel on the other end comes next. That's a stout featured barrel that's got a big chest and a big top. Want to change his running gear a little bit. More importantly, clean him to the front third of his body, elevate him in the way he's made just a little bit. The black barrel in the center ring, want to fix him out of his rump and on his hind leg a little bit. Same for the belt and all, just square up in their rump and the way they come on their hind leg. And the fun colored barrel here that we're going to complete with is one that we just need to flatten up and coarse, or just make it a little less round in the way he's constructed, drop his flank and open it up in the center of his body and make it just a little less tubular in his build. Really, again, a good set of barrels. Let's give our young exhibitors here a nice hand.
Results from Class 7 of the Crossbred market barrels. First place with the purple ribbon was Daniel Wallen. Second place with the purple ribbon was Boone Carlson. Third place with the purple ribbon was Megan Lind. Fourth place with the purple ribbon was Jason Chesky. Fifth place with the blue ribbon was Claire Bottleson. Sixth with the blue ribbon was Kennedy Matson. Seventh place with the blue ribbon was Sarah Allison. Eighth place with the blue ribbon was Megan Luke. Morgan Luke. Ninth place with the blue ribbon was Austin Niebuhr. 10th place with the blue ribbon was Keenan Niebuhr, and 11th place with the blue ribbon was Sophie Stroop. in the ring now is Class 8 of the Crossbred Market Barrows. We have 10 entries. Piper Bell, Warren Wakefield, Dugan Seuss, Carly Luke, Olivia Cross, Brooklyn Drescher, Autumn Seuss, Abby Beatty, Levi Sorensen, and Wyatt Added. I'm going to take some time to announce the Young Swine Producer Application Award winner. So this year for the Progressive Young Swine Producer, we'll just kidding, we're going to do it after this class.
Sometimes they come together a little easier. I've struggled with a couple classes getting them put together, and then there's classes that just kind of fall together. Just fall together. You've got a good hook, you've got a second, you've got a third, things just kind of come together a little bit more rapidly, and so that makes it a little easier from the judge's perspective. I like the young lady in the charcoal shirt here to my left with the blue spotted barrow here to win the class, and I think if you study that one relative to the drive, that's the stout, good built one. It's got a great design, a good look, and one that's opened up and square, muscular, kind of all the things we talked about in the drives. That's the one that kind of puts all those things together for me in the drive and does that real. Young lady here in the peach colored shirt with the kind of shiny barrow comes second. Again, one that's busted smooth open, it's got a great shape and good muscularity. Maybe not as secure as hot, but one that's long and level and square and opened up and got lots of muscularity, and I like that about that hog. I think he just fits into that spot really well. Young lady with the kind of head design, I guess, would come next. And again, a barrow that when you get off the side again, you like really well. It's got He's shoulder and hip match really well. You get into him, he's maybe not quite as muscular as those hogs we've had right above him, but he designs very similar as far as his levelness, his squareness, and his correctness. Here again with the blue hog there, right next to him comes next. That's a powerful Barrow. He's got just a lot of shape and mass and dimension. He's got lots of muscularity. You can also see at the ringside, he's also pushing a little bit more condition than maybe what we deem ideal, but I think when you peel that back, there's simply going to be more to him than what we got in some of the other hogs that are here in the ring. Young lady with the white sock hog comes next. A good design, one that's level and flexible and gets out and moves well. We just need to offer that one a shot of product, a shot of muscularity in the way that one goes. There's one that I looked at online from a video submission. That one will come in next. And the young lady across the way will come next. One that again, when you get into that one's body, he's got some shape and got some muscularity. We'd offer just a little bit more balance. This lady right here would come next. Again, got some shape and some muscularity. We need to maybe change that one from a balance and build standpoint. Then we end with a pair of bears here, the velvet one, then the blue that simply need a shot of muscle and structural correctness if we're going to get them up higher in the class. Let's give a nice round of applause. A good set of bears.
Results from Class A with the Crossbred Market Barrows. First place with the purple ribbon was Abby Beatty. Second place with the purple ribbon was Carly Luke. In third place with the blue ribbon was Brendan Drescher. Fourth place with the blue ribbon was Levi Sorensen. Fifth place with the blue ribbon was Olivia Krause. Sixth place with the blue ribbon was Ryan Maddock. Seventh place with the blue ribbon was Duke Seuss. Eighth with the blue ribbon was Lauren Wakefield. Ninth with the blue ribbon was Libby Bell. And 10th with the blue ribbon was Autumn Seuss. Master winner. This year was Abby Beatty. And for the Master Slime Producer, the winner was Annika Hansen. So if you don't know what the Slime Producer Award is, so the winner for the Progressive and Master will receive $100, which will be given at the annual banquet as well. The Freeborn County Pork Producers select an outstanding Young 4-H Slime Project member, and the recipient is announced right now. So these youth are from grades for the Masters 9 through 12 and up, and have exhibited slime for the last 5 years. And for the Progressive Young Slime Producer Award, grades 5 through 8, and has been in the slime project for the past 2 years. So congratulations to Annika and Abby.
Well, certainly if you're ringside, I'd ask you to put your hands together. Let's give our young exhibitors here a great big round of applause. Had an awesome Crossbred show, lots of quality. Every class was deep, and you know, we gave purple ribbons out in every class, and that doesn't happen everywhere. And so my compliments to you young people and the parents and whoever's helping them out. Just really, really an excellent set of Crossbreds to work through. Get it back out here, and again, they build and design, and they all kind of get the same kind of look, and you get into them, and they've got muscle, and they've got some dimension, and yet they have some presence about them to make them certainly ring appealing. There's one of them that's probably just when you just study pieces and parts and put all the pieces and parts together and then say which one is the ESTs as far as stoutest and boldest and all those kind of things for their weight and all that kind of stuff, and kind of compare all those things together as one of them kind of separates themselves as far as having the most ESTs and being the one that kind of stretches all those places. I think the greatest young lady's blue bear that comes across the ring will be a champion here. We had in that second, when we talked about him being one that we like the muscularity, we like the length of side and extension, maybe changes running gear ever so slightly to make him just really complete the design. I found my reserve pretty early, and it took a really powerful one to get around him, but I think one that just builds so extremely well, it's so flexible, and just shape the way he's constructed, and yet one that is found in his feature. And his center body cavity is really, really good. And lady, you've got our reserve champion out here today.
No, we're done. They're ready.
All right, congratulations to the Crossbred Barrow, Abby Beebe, and reserve champion Lindsay Nielsen. And if anyone is interested, the backdrop is on the other side of the cattle barn, or the show barn, excuse me, if you want to take your pigs over and get some pictures too. I'll announce the interview winners again for the top 10% of the sign species in the senior division. We have Annika Hansen, Ryan Hansen, Kane Purdy, Levi Sorensen, Shay Saylor, Haven Carlson, and Megan Lynn. In the intermediate division, we had Maddox Christensen, Brooklyn Drescher, Alex Nielsen, Jaden Lynn, and Darren Lynn. And the junior division, we had McKenna Reeder, Mason Reeder, Aubrey Drescher, Morgan Luke, and Jay Signicheski. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Certainly appreciate the opportunity to come, and I assume we got some showmanship maybe to go through yet, but and I know I probably should have said something when we picked Champion Cross, but appreciate the opportunity to come and work with the young people. Certainly 3 months ago we didn't know that this was going to happen, and so it's great that we've been able to pull some of this stuff off and make it work, and just my compliments to your county to fulfill it and work through with the young people and see this project through. And young people, if you're still here and you can hear me, somewhere down the road, look your parents or whoever it was that helped you in the eye and thank them, because it took a lot of faith back in February and March to buy these things and put them on feet, not realizing what was going to happen in the future. And so to you parents that are ringside, thank you for doing that. Thank you for having faith that that 4-H would see the way through to give your young people an opportunity to work with their projects. I know a lot of families that I speak with, this has been the one normalcy that they've had in their summer, that they've had a 4-H project to go work on or a FFA project to go work on, and that has given their family a lot of maybe groundedness is the best way to say it. And so thank you parents for your your fortitude, your ability to stay with the program and engage with your young person. So I think, again, we've had an outstanding set of Barrows and gilts to work through, and you get them back out here, and there's 3 awfully good ones. But again, there's one that's probably, to use an old, I know they're not all the same sex, but one there's probably a man above boys. And the young lady's blue one in front of me is going to be a champion out here. Congratulations. We had in that reserve cross, and it takes a lot. I'm not scared to reach out and grab one that's young, and I think this one, if you read the future inside of him, he's one that's got a lot of promise when you think about just design and build and the way that he's put together and constructed. I think there's a tremendous amount of future inside this barrel. I'd like him to be our reserve champion on Tuesday. Congratulations.
And the overall grand champion market barrel goes to Abby Beebe, and reserve champion went to Lindsay Nielsen. Again, if you would like to take pictures of the backdrop, it's on the other side of the show barn. That's all set up. Go ahead, use it if you feel the need to.
Oh, we're done? Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, yeah. I heard that, but I didn't realize. I just thought they were